365 Radio. Ryan, how much interest is there or activity, energy when it comes to the Jordan Addison visit to USC?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, when that name first popped up on everyone's radar a couple of weeks ago, USC, needs help at a lot of different positions, not necessarily at wide receiver, but when a guy like that enters the portal, I mean, there were 6 first-round draft picks in the NFL from the receiver spot, and Jordan Addison won the Biletnikoff, so he's going to get a lot of attention. He has the childhood connection with Caleb Williams, USC's USC's quarterback. They played wide receiver quarterback back in the DMV, DC area growing up, so that kind of caught a lot of people's attention. I think Lincoln Riley made some news with some of the guys he was able to land in the portal, but if you get a guy like that, like a major college football award winner, definitely gets people's attention.
How do you see the team with transfers and what was left and all the thing happening coming together after spring? Because I would assume that's probably Lincoln Riley's biggest challenge is he's got a bunch of talent that's come in for sure, but can he make it all work in year one to contend for the Pac-12 title?
Yeah, I think that's the big question because he's completely remaking the roster. I mean, there's 30-something guys that are gone. He added 13 from the transfer portal before spring, and then since spring has ended, 4 more players. He talked about adding double digits after spring football, and we try to keep count of the scholarships. It looked like USC had 10 open spots, so he could potentially get there, but there's just not as big of, the names in the portal aren't as big as what maybe we thought during spring. I think the coaches out there across the country realize how important the portal is, and they're recruiting their own players better than they were before. So I don't know if there's as many impact players in there. USC's on probably 2 of the biggest ones, Jordan Addison and then Jermaine Lole, the defensive lineman from Arizona State. But, outside of that, you're getting some guys like they just picked up a JC, a Butler Community College offensive tackle that, looks good, but he's only been playing football a few years. You're probably going to get more guys like that than like proven commodities like Jordan Addison.
Ryan, obviously the 3 letters NIL have become all the rage and talk in college football these days. How would you say that USC has adapted to this new landscape so far?
Sort of like the West Coast and Pac-12. I mean, it's pretty slow, I think. USC has some big boosters, but they're not organized. So it was funny when like the Jordan Addison stuff was coming out and there was like this $3 million deal. It didn't pass the smell test for me. I think USC will get there, but they are not, they're not organized like a Tennessee or a Texas A&M or anything like that, where there's all the organized activity going on. There's no collective at USC to this point, and even though Lincoln Riley's a good recruiter, they've lost a player already because of NIL. So Josh Connerly, the 5-star offensive tackle from Seattle, ends up going to Oregon, and they were able to put together a nice NIL package there. So I think USC will get there, and there's definitely some benefits being in Los Angeles, but it's more for the star player kind of thing, like a Caleb Williams, than for like a backup guard where maybe in Lincoln, Nebraska is going to get a lot of money. So I think that's where USC needs to kind of focus on. They're sort of slow to adapt to this stuff, but they have a lot of there's a lot of advantages there, but having like a collective, putting NIL packages together just isn't one of them right now.
Addison was at UT in Austin. They put on a show, as you could imagine, wined and dined him, whatever they could possibly do, and they obviously are a logo and a blue blood. You don't even hear Smoak. That who knows? Alabama might get involved at some point. Right now, where do you feel like that needle is headed?
It's just from the beginning when it's sort of like the Caleb Williams thing. It just kind of made sense to end up at USC. I think the same thing applies here. Texas is definitely an attractive place, and I think it seems like his visit was good there. And obviously Alabama, you're talking about playing with the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. I mean, there's definitely some soft landing spots for Addison, but just as far as if you're going to go 1 year somewhere, you were at Pitt, had all the success, play with your friend from childhood and Caleb Williams, and try to be part of something that Lincoln Riley's been putting together, and maybe get some big deals just because you're in Los Angeles and you're bringing some cachet because you are the reigning Biletnikoff Award winner. That's sort of where I'm pointing right now, but it's crazy. Someone could come in with some huge money and NIL, and I think that's where USC would have an advantage. And then could he end up at Texas or Alabama? I think that's certainly possible.
How can USC not have an NIL advantage? Because as you mentioned, they're just not quite they're not organized right now?
Yeah, so Caleb Williams, if he was in, where if he's in Tallahassee, he's going to be the biggest name in that region, right?
Right, okay.
And, here, there's LeBron James. There's Clay or whatever you want. You name a million players. He's not in the top 25. He talked about being able to walk around in Los Angeles. He had dinner at some place, and Kim Kardashian was there with Pete Davidson. No, everyone's the paparazzi are there, but not for him. And I think that's one of the things. But he still was able to get a big Beats deal. As a star, you can make money in Los Angeles, but as college football is just not the biggest deal here. I think they will get together and have a collective and put some packages together, but right now they're just not kind of there yet. USC sort of uses its inherent advantages in other ways, like being in LA and stuff. There's some advantages to being there, but just the organization, as far as that stuff goes, they're not quite there yet.
They can host a Super Bowl. No one even sometimes knows it's there.
They can't get Spielberg and Will Ferrell and these guys together, Ryan, and do one.
Yeah, it would be great, Snoop Dogg or whatever coming out to recruiting visits. There's a lot of stuff that they could do. When people were coming visiting and they were able to check out Super Bowl activities, stuff like that. Yeah, that's a unique thing you can do in Los Angeles. So they try to use that to their advantage. But and they have a rich alumni. There's not this. There wasn't this push to kind of get out in front of the curve and put an NIL collective together like there were in other places. You see Tennessee doing some crazy things and making a lot of progress in recruiting. I think USC will get there as it becomes more mainstream, but they weren't going to be, leading the charge for something like that.
So, Ryan, it's been a few months since Lincoln Riley just